Individually, these don't seem like much. But they compound over time. And by the time you notice the damage, reversing it becomes much harder. What's worse? This process often works in silence. You might go for months, even years, without feeling anything unusual, and then suddenly, you're out of breath climbing a single flight of stairs. That's because one of the most dangerous things about certain age-related changes is that they don't announce themselves loudly at first. For example, nerve degeneration often begins years before you notice tingling or numbness in your hands or feet. Circulatory decline can quietly reduce oxygen delivery to your brain, making your thinking just a little slower, so subtle you chalk it up to senior moments. Muscle atrophy can begin long before you physically feel weaker. You might just think you're out of shape. And here's the tragic truth. By the time most people seek help, they've already lost a significant portion of their physical resilience, the kind that's hard to rebuild. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to wake you up. Because the biggest mistake I see seniors make is assuming that slowing down is inevitable, that nothing they do now can make a real difference. I can tell you, after decades in practice, that assumption is absolutely false. I've seen people in their late 70s reverse fatigue so dramatically that they start hiking again. I've seen 82-year-olds regain balance they thought they'd lost forever. And I've seen people who thought they were too far gone turn their health around in a matter of months, without drugs, without surgeries, just by understanding how to work with their body instead of against it. When I explained to Margaret what was really happening inside her body, she sat there in silence for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. I thought I was doing fine. I thought this was just life now. But if I can change it, I want to start today. And that was the turning point. We built her a plan, nothing extreme, nothing fancy. Small, consistent steps. Adjustments to her diet. A different bedtime routine. Gentle but intentional movement each morning. And within 3 months, she wasn't just tolerating life, she was living it. Her energy was back. Her balance improved. Her brain felt sharper. She even started a small walking group at the library. They called themselves the Morning Movers. This is the point in the story where most people expect me to reveal some exotic pill or complicated therapy. But the truth is, it wasn't about a miracle cure. It was about understanding the hidden levers of senior health, and pulling the right ones in the right order. As we continue, I'll share exactly what those levers are, and why one in particular, often overlooked, can create changes so dramatic that friends and family will notice within weeks. But before we get there, I want you to pause and think about your own life right now. Ask yourself, are there things I've been accepting as just part of aging that might not actually be inevitable? Because the answer to that question could be the beginning of your comeback story. Now, let's talk about something that might not sound exciting at first, but trust me, it's one of the hidden keys to keeping your brain and body young: how you move every single day. See, many seniors I meet believe exercise means spending hours sweating in a gym or running miles. And that thought alone is enough to make them avoid it entirely. But here's the truth: movement is medicine. And you don't have to run a marathon to enjoy its benefits. In fact, what really matters is consistency, small, deliberate actions every single day that keep your body strong, your joints flexible, and your mind sharp. I had a patient, Eleanor, who was 84 when she first came to me. She complained of feeling old, which she described as moving slowly, losing balance, and having a foggy mind. She thought this was just aging. But after learning she only moved from her bed to the sofa most days, we started a very simple plan: 5 minutes of slow walking in her backyard in the morning, a few seated stretches in the afternoon, and standing up every 30 minutes when watching TV. Within 6 weeks, Eleanor came back beaming. "Dr. Marcus," she told me, "I feel like my brain woke up again." That's because movement increases blood flow, not just to your muscles, but to your brain. It brings fresh oxygen, removes waste products, and literally fuels your mental sharpness. But movement does something else too: it boosts something called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I call it miracle growth for your brain cells. It helps your brain create new connections and keep the old ones strong, which is critical for memory, focus, and preventing cognitive decline. And here's where it gets even better: the type of movement you choose matters less than you think. Whether it's dancing to your favorite music, gardening, gentle yoga, tai chi, or even walking to the store instead of driving, if you do it daily, you're sending your brain the message: stay alive, stay sharp, stay connected. I also want to touch on something that doesn't get enough attention: power training for seniors. No, I'm not asking you to lift heavy barbells like an Olympic athlete. But light resistance exercises, like lifting a pair of soup cans, squeezing a soft ball, or doing chair squats, can dramatically improve muscle strength. Stronger muscles protect your joints, improve your balance, and reduce your risk of falls. And falls, as you know, can lead to a cascade of health issues. Think of your muscles as your body's reserve tank. The more you have, the more backup you have when life throws challenges your way, whether it's recovering from an illness, bouncing back from surgery, or simply keeping up with your grandkids. Now, some of you might be thinking, "But Dr. Marcus, I have arthritis, or I get tired quickly." And I hear you. That's exactly why I encourage you to start small, so small that you can't say no. If you can only march in place for 60 seconds today, that's your start. Tomorrow, you add another 30 seconds. This slow build not only prevents injury, but it also builds your confidence, which is just as important as the exercise itself. And speaking of confidence, one of the most powerful things movement gives you isn't just physical strength, it's mental resilience. You begin to trust your body again. You start to feel capable, not fragile. That shift in mindset alone can change how you live the rest of your life. But movement is just one piece of the puzzle. The other is how you fuel your body. I'm not here to put you on a fad diet or tell you to cut out everything you love. I'm here to help you eat in a way that supports longevity and keeps inflammation low, because inflammation is the silent thief of vitality. The simplest place to start. Think of your plate like a colorful garden. The more colors from natural foods, the better. Bright berries, leafy greens, golden turmeric-spiced vegetables, deep purple cabbage, all of these colors represent different antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals that protect your cells from damage. And speaking of berries, here's a fun fact: blueberries are what I call brain berries. They're packed with anthocyanins, compounds that not only fight inflammation but also help improve communication between brain cells. I have my patients add just half a cup to their breakfast, and they often notice subtle changes in their alertness and recall. Let's also talk about healthy fats, because your brain is nearly 60% fat. If you've been avoiding fats entirely, it's time to rethink that. The right fats, like those in walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, avocados, and fatty fish like salmon, provide essential building blocks for your brain cells. They help your brain send messages faster and more efficiently. On the flip side, we need to minimize the fats that damage your brain, trans fats and excessive saturated fats from processed foods, fried snacks, and low-quality meats. These don't just harm your arteries, they clog up communication in the brain, slow thinking, and increase your risk of memory loss. Now, hydration, it's one of the easiest things to fix and yet so often overlooked. Your brain is about 73% water. When you're even slightly dehydrated, your brain works harder to complete tasks. That's why you might feel foggy or irritable when you haven't had enough fluids. I recommend setting a simple goal: drink a glass of water every time you pass through your kitchen. By the end of the day, you'll be amazed at how much better you feel. And here's something that might surprise you: tea and coffee in moderation can actually be brain-friendly. Green tea, for example, contains L-theanine, which promotes a state of calm alertness, and coffee is rich in antioxidants that protect brain cells. The key is not overdoing it and avoiding the sugar-laden coffee shop drinks. Everything we've discussed so far, movement, anti-inflammatory foods, healthy fats, hydration, works together like the gears of a clock. You can't rely on just one and expect optimal results. They all feed into each other. The energy you get from better nutrition fuels your desire to move. Movement improves your mood and sleep, which helps you make better food choices. And better hydration makes everything else work more smoothly. Now, I know change can feel overwhelming. That's why I always tell my patients, and now I'm telling you, don't try to overhaul your life in one night. Start with one habit. Just one. Then master it. Once it feels automatic, add the next one. And when you feel resistance creeping in, remind yourself, you're not doing this to reverse the clock or chase youth. You're doing it so that every year you live is a year you can fully enjoy, with your mind clear, your body capable, and your spirit strong. In a moment, we'll talk about a daily practice that many of my senior patients swear by, not just for physical health, but for mental peace, sharper memory, and even deeper relationships. And no, it's not another exercise or food tip. It's something far simpler, yet deeply transformative. Now, let's dive deeper into something that often gets overlooked but has a profound effect on your day-to-day comfort, mobility, and long-term independence: the way we respond to early warning signs from our bodies. By this point in the conversation, you've probably realized that many of the aches, stiffness, and little energy dips we dismiss as just getting older are actually our body sending subtle SOS signals. Ignoring them might feel harmless at first, but over the years, it's like ignoring a dripping faucet that eventually floods the whole kitchen. One of the most important lessons I've learned from years of working with patients over 60 is that most chronic decline isn't inevitable, it's cumulative neglect. And it often starts with small, seemingly harmless habits. Let's take a simple example: waking up in the morning with stiffness in your legs or back. Many people shrug it off, telling themselves it'll loosen up as the day goes on. And it usually does. But what's happening under the surface? Your muscles are quietly losing elasticity, your blood circulation is slowing during the night, and your joints aren't getting the same lubrication they used to. Over months and years, that stiffness can morph into reduced range of motion, chronic pain, or even a fall risk. That's why I constantly tell my older patients, early action beats late reaction. If you feel something off, even if it seems small, acknowledge it, and do something about it. Don't just file it away under, "I guess I'm aging." Because here's the truth, your body is incredibly adaptive, even in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. But adaptation only happens when you give it the right stimulus. Now, speaking of the right stimulus, let's talk about one of my favorite underused medicines for seniors, micromovements. I'm not talking about an hour at the gym or training for a marathon. I'm talking about gentle, intentional movements you can do throughout the day that keep your muscles engaged and your circulation strong. Things like ankle circles while you sit, slow neck rotations to keep your cervical spine loose, or even gentle shoulder rolls while you're making tea. These small acts seem insignificant, but they add up, just like interest in a savings account. And over time, they protect you from stiffness, soreness, and dangerous balance loss. In fact, research shows that seniors who interrupt sitting with even 2 minutes of light movement every 30 minutes have significantly lower blood sugar levels and better joint health than those who sit continuously. And that's without any structured exercise program. That's just choosing to move. But movement is only half the equation. What fuels your body is equally important. And here's where I get a little passionate, because too many people think healthy eating means bland, joyless meals. That's not sustainable. What I've seen work, both in clinical practice and personal observation, is what I call strategic nutrition. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet overnight. Instead, you target the biggest wins first. For example, many seniors unknowingly underconsume high-quality protein, which is essential to maintaining muscle mass. Instead of a tiny piece of chicken at dinner, try including a good source of protein at every meal, Greek yogurt in the morning, a handful of nuts midday, a lentil soup at lunch, or eggs with vegetables. This isn't about bodybuilding, this is about keeping the very muscle tissue that supports your joints, protects your bones, and allows you to do simple things like carry groceries or get up from a chair without assistance. Another big one: hydration. It sounds obvious, but as we age, our thirst signal becomes less reliable. Many seniors walk around mildly dehydrated without realizing it, leading to fatigue, headaches, dizziness, and even confusion. If you often feel foggy in the afternoon, try drinking a glass of water before you reach for caffeine. You might be surprised at the clarity it brings. Now, while we're on the topic of clarity, let's discuss something that doesn't get enough airtime: mental environment. I've met countless seniors who physically take care of themselves but live in an environment of constant mental stress. Chronic worry, too much negative news, or simply not having enough stimulating conversation can accelerate both physical and cognitive decline. Your mind is not separate from your body, it's the central command center. And when it's under strain, your entire system suffers. That's why I encourage practices like gentle meditation, breathing exercises, or simply sitting by a window and watching the world without judgment for 5 minutes. It's not woo-woo, it's neuroscience. This intentional mental rest lowers cortisol, which in turn reduces inflammation in the body. And less inflammation means less joint pain, more stable moods, and better sleep. But I want to take it even further. If you really want to age well, you can't just avoid disease, you have to actively pursue vitality. That means setting challenges for yourself, even small ones. Learn a new recipe. Take a different walking route. Try a puzzle that stretches your thinking. These are the sparks that keep your nervous system sharp and your days interesting. Because one of the biggest risks for seniors isn't just illness, it's monotony. When every day feels the same, your brain has no reason to stay alert, and your body follows suit. And if you're wondering, where do I start? Start small. Choose one new habit this week. Maybe it's drinking more water, or doing 5 minutes of stretching in the morning, or calling an old friend. The point isn't to do everything perfectly, it's to do something consistently. Now, before we wrap this conversation, I want to leave you with a perspective shift. Too many people see aging as a slow decline, a series of losses. But I've watched people in their 70s and 80s completely reinvent themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, simply by making daily choices that support life instead of drain it. Aging is not about losing. It's about refining. You get to keep the wisdom, the resilience, the experience, and with the right approach, you can keep the strength, mobility, and energy too. So here's your challenge: for the next 24 hours, notice how you move, how you eat, and how you speak to yourself. If you catch yourself saying, "I'm too old for that," pause and ask, is it really my age, or is it my habits? More often than not, it's the latter. And remember, your body isn't giving up on you. It's waiting for you to give it a reason to adapt, grow, and thrive. You're not past your prime. Your prime is simply being redefined. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share with your loved ones.